Time to round up one of the big topics from the week. And this past week, the Supreme Court gave new life to the Robbie Tolan case. You may remember back in 2008, Tolan, a baseball player, sued the Bel Air Police Department after being shot by an officer in front of his home. Tolan, who is black, says he was racially profiled by the white officer. That officer later acquitted. Now the Supreme Court has ruled a lower court acted too hastily when a judge dismissed Tolan's civil case. We're going to learn more about the next steps in this case tomorrow in a news conference that will be held by Tolan's family and attorneys. This morning, we're asking, should a jury get to decide whether Tolan's rights were violated? That's the topic for our panel this half hour. Joining us live in the newsroom, we have our legal analyst, Chris Tritico, our news analyst, Mustafa Tamiz, and public policy analyst, Jackie Bally. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
All right. Happy Mother's Day, Jackie.
Happy Mother's Day.
Before we get started, just Mustafa and I didn't want the two moms here, Jackie and Sally, so we brought you all little flowers. Yours are on your desk.
I have them right here. Thank you guys so
John.
much. I was going to thank you at the end of the show as well. Thank you.
No one should have to work on Mother's Day, but here you are. All right,
let's get into it.
Robbie Tolan here. What happened here is in the criminal case, of course, everybody knows that the officer was found not guilty. And then in the civil case, the federal judge dismissed it on a motion to dismiss. The federal rules allow you to file a motion to dismiss as soon as a case is filed, and it's really a ruling on the pleadings. There's no case here, dismiss it. Judge granted that. Fifth Circuit affirmed it. The U.S. Supreme Court said last week, nope, you acted too quickly, and you should have allowed Robbie Tolan to prove his case. Now it goes back to the trial court for them to at least get their discovery done, and then they can file a motion for summary judgment later, and they may lose it again. But at least the Supreme Court said, in my view, the right thing, Jackie Bally, let's let a jury take a look at this.
Right, and he did say, as you clearly said, that there are some procedural errors that were made, and that's why they need to look at this again. But you know, in cases like this, 95% of the times they do not find the cop or the police officer guilty. This is not the first time something like this has happened. Unfortunately, it will not be the last. But statistics are showing that it's very difficult in these type of cases to prove that the officer did not do something within his rights or did something illegally. So even though it is going back to trial, it's going to be very difficult to prove that this officer did something that was out of the realm of what he was legally allowed to do.
And Jackie's absolutely right. I'm not sure about the percentages, but she's absolutely right that in most cases the police or officers are found not guilty because in most cases they have the right to use deadly force. But that doesn't mean that a jury shouldn't decide these civil rights issues.
Absolutely, and this is and what Jackie said and what you said, although statistically correct, it says something about the society in which we live in, that we have not passed the racial barrier, that people of color are discriminated against, and police departments like Bel Air have a history of doing that. And in this case, you had a brilliant lawyer like Martin Siegel, who's Harvard trained, and was able to take it to the Supreme Court and get a fair day in court. But in most cases, people don't have this kind of legal support, and it gets buried under the rug.
But don't you think that most people generally don't want to believe that the police officers are violating people's civil rights? And that's really the problem you have in convicting officers who may actually have been racially motivated.
Of course, we want to think this is 2014, then this is a different day. We're talking about statistics. I was actually trying to find statistics about how many of these men or women are of people of color, brown skin, whatever, and there's nothing as far as their ethnicity for that reason, because we would like to believe that we have moved on beyond that. But unfortunately, you're seeing incidents like this more and more, which makes us question, really, have we moved on from that?
You know, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is the federal appellate court here, is the most conservative in the nation, and they have for years had a rule that you have to prove policy, pattern, and practice. In other words, it's not good enough that the officer did it, you have to prove the mayor was involved. That's an impossible standard.
Right.
It's a difficult standard. It's an unfair standard. And you know, ever since the Rodney King case, where the first video came out of this, the public started to understand that. You would think that we have moved beyond it, but we haven't. It's happened here in Houston a number of times.
All right, let's go to Sally. She's monitoring our social media accounts.
Yeah, we've got both Twitter and Facebook comments this morning, guys. First, we want to go to Twitter. We have a local man, Taft Mohair, who says the community supports the Supreme Court decision in the Tolan case. We also have the president of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund saying, give the Supreme Court credit. This week, they gave new life to the claim. We also want to take you over to our Facebook page now. We have a comment from Jacqueline. She says she doesn't think a jury should decide. She believes a judge should be capable of following the law. She says a jury will be biased and racist for many possible reasons. What do you think about that?
I completely disagree with her assessment of the jury system. Having tried hundreds of criminal trials all over the United States, I can tell you that every jury I've ever picked has gone out of their way to ensure that they do the right thing. They may not make the right decision, but what they do is unbiased, and they try their best to do what it needs to be to get the job done right.
Sure. I mean, we all want to make, if you're going to go through the efforts to try to take this to people of your standards or at your level, we have to remember this is going to be very difficult, because even though it's coming back to the jury, they're looking at the case again. This is just because of procedural issues that were overlooked. It's not anything new, nothing new or factual is going to be represented. So it's going to be difficult for them to find a guilty verdict.
All right, we're going to have to leave it right there. Sally, we'll be back in just a few minutes with another really good topic.
We'll see you in our next half hour.